Hello and welcome to Bernadette's Way. Today I'm going to be making pie crust. I will have the recipe down below. And now for the ingredients to make pie crust. The ingredients to make pie crust are all-purpose flour, white granulated sugar, salt, frozen unsalted butter, and ice water. Now let's get started making pie crust. To start your pie crust, place all your dry ingredients into the food processor. Add 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then pulse to mix. Cut 2 sticks or 1 cup of frozen unsalted butter into cubes and then add to your food processor. Then pulse until butter is pea-sized about 6 to 8 times. Using ice water, add 1 tablespoon at a time of water to the food processor. After you add each tablespoon of water, pulse until the dough starts to form. About 6 to 8 tablespoons of ice water. And fork 1. So it looks like number 7 is going to have to be that lucky number. I mixed in the blender really well. It's going to be easier for me to form the 2 discs that I need. And I smush it with the palm here to have a nice flaky crust. Just pushing that butter into it. I still want this to stay nice and cold. So I'm not going to do that for too long. That's all I'm going to do. Then I'm going to form my disc. That's 1 disc. See? 13.2, 13.5, and in case you wanted to know, altogether, pound and 10.7 ounces. It needs to be refrigerated for at least an hour, but I noticed that it needs to be in there for more than an hour, but I live in Texas and it's pretty warm right now, so I put it in there for at least 3 hours before I think about working with it on these hot days. However, I believe overnight is best. And since I'm not in a rush, I am going to put these in overnight before I start working with them. Here we go. They need to be wrapped in plastic. Airtight is so much better because it doesn't get a crust on it. You don't want that. So these are going in the fridge overnight. Set the dough out for around 30 minutes or until it is thawed enough to roll out. Then roll the dough out to the size you need. I am making a 9-inch round pie crust. Place your dough onto the pan you are going to be baking with. Remove any air bubbles between the pan and the dough. Fix any holes that may have formed in the dough by pressing either side of the dough together with your fingers. Cut off any excess dough. You can form any style that you want on your crust. I am using a fork to form the crust that I want. The following steps will depend on the pie recipe you are following. You may need an unbaked frozen pie crust, a pre-baked pie crust, or follow the pie recipe directions. The following steps are for a pre-baked pie crust. After your pie crust is formed, place your pie crust in the freezer for at least 30 minutes. This will prevent the pie crust from slipping down the pie pan when it's baking. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Line your frozen pie crust with aluminum foil, parchment paper, or wax paper, and fill your pie 2/3 of the way with pie weights. The pie weights can be dry beans, rice, or stainless steel pie weights. I'm using dry beans. Bake for 20 minutes with the pie weights. Then take the pie crust out of the oven and let it cool until you can safely remove the pie weights. I waited for about 3 minutes before I removed the pie weights. Once the weights are removed, using a fork, poke holes into the bottom of the crust. Return the pie crust to the oven without the pie weights and bake for an additional 10 minutes or until golden brown, and then cool completely before adding your filling. Thanks for watching. Take a look at my lemon meringue pie video for how to use the pre-baked pie crust, or watch my pumpkin pie video to know how to use the unbaked frozen pie crust. I will have the links to these videos in the description. Take care and stay sweet.